Hi there.
Vicki and I are so excited to be able to talk to you.
Hmm.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk as well.
That's great.
Our pleasure.
So we were just talking about your series of books, young adult fiction that you've written, featuring a 12-year-old girl named Amanda Ross. Can you tell us about that series and how you started writing it?
Certainly, I'd be happy to. So the series is about a 12-year-old Canadian girl called Amanda Jane Ross, and she has a nice life. She's an only child. Her parents are both accountants, and they work really long hours.
Mm.
So she has to be quite self-reliant. She likes to cook. She reads a lot. She often cooks for her parents because they come in late, but she thinks her life is really boring.
Mm.
And for her 12th birthday, she makes a wish before she blows out the candles, and she wishes for travel and adventure. And the very next day, she gets tickets to go to the United Arab Emirates to visit her aunt and uncle who live and work there. And that's how the adventure starts. While she's there, she meets a British girl named Leah. They get into, well, not particularly trouble, but they have an adventure. They try to help out a young girl who's involved in an arranged marriage, and she doesn't want to marry this older man. And all kinds of things happen. They get lost in a desert storm, a dust storm in the desert. And at the end of it all, Amanda decides she wants to travel some more. She loves travel.
But
So
if I
then she goes,
remember, because I just read this, if I remember right, as soon as she gets, there were at some points on the adventure where she was like, well, be careful what you wish for.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, yeah, she gets kidnapped, all kinds of things.
Mhm.
And so then, she goes to visit Leah in England, and they try to find a missing vintage book. Leah and her parents invite her to Spain
Mm.
because they have a timeshare there, a holiday home there, and they help a little girl try and find her pony that's been kidnapped. So all kinds of things happen,
Mhm.
and she's happy that she made this wish and that it came true. So, once
Yeah.
I started writing these books, I couldn't stop. So you wanted to know how I started. Well, this
Yeah.
is kind of an interesting story because I also had a very nice life as a child, but felt it was a bit boring and really wanted to. And when people read, when kids read a lot of the books take place in other countries. And I
Mhm.
remember as a child, oh, I really want to go there. I read Hans Brinker and the Silver Skates, and I wanted to go to Holland, so that kind of stuff. And so I had a friend who was working in the United Arab Emirates, and she invited me to come and visit her. So I hopped on a plane, flew halfway around the world, and had a fabulous time. Went on my own,
Wow.
and had such a good time. And everything I saw, it was just different, so different. The culture,
Mhm.
the architecture, the geography, everything was different. And I'd say to my girlfriend all the time, "Oh my God, this is great. This is wonderful." And at one point, she turned to me and she said, "You're acting like a 12-year-old." And but not in a mean way, but
Yeah.
I kind of was.
Mm.
So I came home from that trip and I thought I should write about this. I really should. And I was writing it from an adult perspective. But
Mhm.
the excitement I felt while I was there was not coming through.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I thought, you know what? I should try writing this from the point of view of a 12-year-old,
Mhm.
which I did. And
There
Amanda
you
in
go.
Arabia was born, and the whole series was born from that. So there you go.
Mm.
That's how you can get your ideas.
That
Well,
is
and I love
awesome.
it. Wynne and I were comparing because we didn't plan this. She happened to read the first in this series, and I just read, Amanda in Scotland and the Standing Stones, and I mean, we were talking before we had you join us about how much we enjoy them, but I think you bring all of that the childhood
Mhm.
zeal for discovery, for cultural immersion, and it's
Mhm.
done, Darlene, with such a beautiful touch because
Yes.
there is an educational element, but it's not really heavy, and you bring in, from what I've read, but I'm eager to read the rest in the Amanda series, these beautiful characters
Mhm.
that, you know, never was there a time in my life when it was more important to have respect for differences and to
Mhm.
see that we're all the same, with these fun little twists. And Amanda's adventures, it's so fun to hear that there's a part of her that's in you,
Hmm.
as you're writing and vice versa. Is that true, do you think?
I think so. I do. Somebody said, was Amanda like me? And not really. Amanda is the 12-year-old I would have liked to have been.
Hmm.
Oh,
Right,
wow.
right.
Yeah.
But
That's
thank
so.
you for saying that, Vicki, because that was the idea when I started writing these books. I wanted them to be somewhat educational, tuck a few little facts and in
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
but but I wanted them to be entertaining more than educational. But having said that, there are some schools that do use my books as part of their reading programs so that the
Mhm.
kids can learn about different
Yeah.
cultures.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And I
which
appreciated
I'm
that.
pleased.
Yes, and I appreciated like the contemporary references too, because as I was reading, Aunt Jenny, one of the characters, talks about sort of the magic of the stones, and any, adult who's a fan of the Outlander series, will understand, right, the appeal of all of that. But that like contextualizing and, for the adult readers, I know that they're young adult, but I found every bit of it enjoyable for,
Hmm.
this 60 something gal who's reading, right? Just very enjoyable.
Yeah,
And that's great. And I love it that adults like them as well.
yeah.
That does make me very, very happy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that adults do enjoy them.
Well, there's that
Yes.
note of in especially that age group, that willingness to believe and
Yeah.
the flexibility, so that it just really is ripe for adventure.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love writing for that age group,
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
approximately 8 to 12, because they're no longer little kids, the picture
Hmm.
book kids, but they're
Hmm.
not teenagers with all the teenage angst either.
Hmm.
They're just in that really nice little, well, we call it tweens, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they're in between, and they have their frustrations and things as well, of course. But I just love that age, and they're like sponges. They just
Hmm.
pick things up
Yeah.
when I go to schools and read at school, which is my favorite part, by the way, of being an author, is going
Yeah.
to the schools and meeting the kids because I just love kids.
Yeah.
And then the questions they ask me at the end, it's just I just see their eyes light up, as because I read a little section of it, and then sometimes I'll say, "Oh, please, please read some more," and I think, "Oh my God, that's so fun."
But it's that hint of
Hmm.
magic and mystery and discovery. And I think maybe
Hmm.
for young girls, being a mom of a girl, that empowerment too, to
Hmm.
follow the trail, let your curiosity lead you,
Right.
to not be afraid, but,
Not
to
be
keep your
afraid. That's
eyes
the big
open.
one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
totally get that. Your intention comes through. It gives me chills even thinking about it because
Right.
it's a good thing, for kids, like you said, in that age range, but especially the soft spot for the girls. Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
But
Yeah.
Although I'm quite pleased that lots of boys read them too. I'm quite, and I make sure there's a boy in
Yes.
every one of the books. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
it's good.
and usually an animal.
Also a
Oh,
great character.
yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
the camel is everybody's favorite character, and of
Oh
course
yeah.
the dog that I've got in the border collie, which is based on my friend's border collie, actually. Yeah.
Oh, 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 so
But
good.
clearly Amanda's not the only one that likes to travel, since divide your time between two
Hmm.
continents. You're from Canada, but you live in Spain, spend most of your time there.
And that's where
Um,
you are right now. Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
where I am right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's your favorite part about, being bi-continental?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I think I think my favorite part is that it means I have friends on two different continents.
Hmm.
Oh.
I've got friends wherever I go, basically.
Hmm.
And my daughter always comments on that. She says, "Mom, you've got friends all over the world." She said, "Because of your travels and because you live in Spain and I'm in Europe, so we travel within Europe, and my husband's from England." So I think that's what I like the most.
Hmm.
And also to be subjected to other cultures. I think
Hmm.
that's really healthy,
Hmm.
Yeah.
to learn how other people live. And you it's a bit of a culture shock when you move to another country, and especially when you move to another country that is across an ocean. It's
Hmm.
quite
Right.
something, but it's really good to force yourself to adapt. I think
Hmm.
that's the word I'm trying to think of. Yes, and I'm
Yeah.
Hmm.
quite pleased that I adapted
Right.
quite nicely at the
Learning
end
to
of the day.
shop, learning to drive, I mean,
Yeah,
everything, right?
everything. There's so many things, and the whole difference in the lifestyle. I
Mhm.
mean, for me, and again, it's a nice balance for me. As a North American, I was a typical North American. I was busy, busy. It was go, go, go all day long. We're in Spain. My husband, and now we are retired as well, but my husband and I, we kind of do one thing a day, and that might be buying groceries.
Yes.
Occasionally we might do two. Three is a bit of a stretch. Whereas,
I love that.
Hmm.
I would have
Yeah.
done that by 10 o'clock in the morning in Canada.
Yeah.
And when I go back home, this is quite interesting. When I go back to Canada, I am so one of the reasons my husband doesn't come with me because I am so busy when I get there. I have, I'm having breakfast with a friend, I'm having coffee with another friend, I'm having lunch with my publisher, I'm at a bookstore doing signings, and then I'm meeting someone else for coffee, and then I'm having dinner with some friends I haven't seen for a while. And then I go and read bedtime stories to my grandchildren. So
Yeah.
it's go, 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 because I get
Yeah.
right back into it.
Yeah.
And
Does
I'm
it
not
take any
tired or anything.
transition time? I mean, do you have to
No, not really. I hit the ground running
Sounds almost
usually.
immediate. Yeah, that you click in.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to my granddaughter's place the last time, and she said, Grandma, there's someone going to be calling you in a few minutes to interview you for the local newspaper. Okay, let me put my suitcases in my room. I just
Yeah.
landed.
Yeah.
That's great.
And maybe
But,
for
but
your dear husband, because he's from, the UK,
yeah.
maybe
Mhm.
the fact that you have that kind of in your DNA, that experience of being the, go, 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 you click
Mhm.
into it. But he sounds like a very wise man, I would
Oh,
say,
he
right?
is.
Yeah.
And he's the yin to my yang, of course, because he's the one that'll say, I think you should stop and have a cup of tea, that sort of
Oh,
thing.
that's so
Um,
good.
but I do that while I'm there, and I never get tired or anything because as an extrovert, I do I'm energized by
Mhm.
Yeah.
activity. But when I come back to Spain, I'm just I just want to
Ah.
go and sit on the beach for an hour or two.
Yeah, yeah, but maybe you need that, to
Mhm.
sort of
You
recalibrate.
really do,
Yeah,
and I like that balance. That's another favorite thing is that I've got this nice balance
yeah.
Good.
Can
So
I
in my
good.
ask
life.
you about that then when you're like back, in Spain? Is that where some of the inspiration strikes then when you have the time to kind of decompress a little bit?
Yeah,
Is that when
that you are
ideas
right.
begin to flow? Okay.
And that was there were a number of reasons why we made this move, but that
Hmm.
was one of them was so I could have some quiet time,
Mm.
relaxing time so the creativity could come out.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wrote the first four books while we lived in Canada and I was still working full time. And I managed, but it's
Wow.
been, I guess, more enjoyable to be able to take my time.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Is
Well,
that
you
something that you would say is a tip for other writers, to figure out? Because there's so much advice out there when and I hear a lot of things. But is that something that you would recommend that people need to find their own way?
And different things work for different people, of course, but you need to find a quiet space. And
Mhm.
even in the hustle and bustle of a large urban setting in North America, um, you need to find a quiet space
Hmm.
for yourself so that you can process and so that you can
Yeah.
work
Mhm.
things out. Yes, I mean, Virginia Woolf said you need a room of your own, and
Mhm.
that's basically what she was saying. You need some space of your own
Mhm.
Yes. Well,
to
and we
work at your
were,
craft. Some people, I'm
yeah.
sorry,
Oh
some
no.
people will rent a cabin in the
Mhm.
woods
Yeah.
or on an island or something and go away for a month just to be able to write
Yeah.
without interruptions and stuff, which is kind of a nice idea too. I
Mhm.
did something
Yeah.
different. I bought a house in Spain instead.
Well, and forgive me for interrupting you, but I love the Virginia Woolf quote. But before Wynne hit record, we were taking a little tour of the space that you're in, and next time we visit with you, we're gonna just get really demanding and ask to see more about your travel adventures, in the mementos that you have around you, because we'll save that for next time. But oh
Yeah.
my goodness, you've got stories to tell about some of those beautiful objects behind you. Making the space
Exactly.
your own, right?
Exactly.
Exactly, and that's what you do, and you surround yourself with that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that helps with the creative
Yes.
um, mind as well.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, and that's a perfect segue into, you've sort of boldly stated that you believe everybody can make their dreams come true. And maybe that's part of how you've done that. Can you tell us more?
Yes, and I do believe that people can make their dreams come true, and I think it's a mindset. First of all, you
Mhm.
can't,
Mm.
you know, what they say is what you think is what will happen, right? And if you're going to keep telling yourself it's not going to happen, well, then it won't.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But if you keep telling yourself that it is, it may
Mhm.
not happen the way you thought it would.
Right.
Mm.
It may take a lot longer than you thought it would.
Well,
But
Yeah.
if you
right.
put it out there, it comes back. And I've seen that happen so many times. I mean, I was a really young mom. I mean, I have two kids, four grandkids, and two great grandchildren. So there's a
Right.
there's a lot
My
of people in my
goodness.
life. and
Yeah.
um, and so I wasn't able to finish high school. And so basically, I guess you would call me a high school dropout, but I didn't let that stop me. I
Mm-hmm.
took courses by correspondence, and then I started taking college courses by correspondence, and then I would take continuing education courses, and eventually
Mhm.
I got, the education that I wanted.
It's
So
wonderful.
you just can't let barriers stop you,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so that's what I tell the kids when I go to the schools, and some people will say, well, I can't travel because I don't have money. I've never had very much money, but I've traveled because we just decide not to go out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We'll just stay in and put that money we would have spent to go out in the
Mm-hmm.
travel pot.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I'd pick up extra jobs at night just to
Mm-hmm.
make a little extra money to go traveling. I mean,
Yeah.
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 People,
Yeah.
I think, often build in barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I often think, when people have the pleasure, like Wynne and I do, of spending time with someone like you who's had so much success, I think there is this tendency, whether it's generational or not, I'll put that aside, but I think there's this tendency to seek a straight line towards success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you just described is that you have to let the road meander a little bit and yes, make some sacrifices and think about priorities, but hold fast to what your intentions are.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's one
Hmm.
thing that I've shared more often, probably in my career with the younger, it's been a version of what you just said that I love so much. Don't give up,
Mm-hmm.
but keep moving.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Keep
that's so
moving.
Exactly.
beautiful. Yeah.
And you may take, two steps forward and one step back, or one step forward and two steps back
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But as long as yeah, I'm very goal oriented, and I think,
Yeah.
that helps, obviously. Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Darlene, would you also say that while you're doing that, um, some of your advice would be to be choosy about who you allow kind of into your life? Because sometimes when you hit those speed bumps, there are people who are like, yeah, I knew that was going to happen, or I could have told you. Is that something that you've experienced too, about being selective about who you let in?
Yes, to a point. Now, I'm really lucky because I have a huge family and they're all very supportive. My friends are very supportive. Um, and maybe I just naturally attract people that are supportive because I haven't had a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that have been negative around me. And you know what? I have met some negative people, but I've been able, rather than shut them out, I've been able to turn them around. Not
Ooh,
all the
I
time,
can
not
see
all the
that.
time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but I have
Yeah.
actually. Yes.
Oh,
Hmm.
I love that.
That is,
And
that's
I
so
can
good.
imagine.
Right. Right.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So good.
And we've heard that before from, from that's a good common thread, which is, you ask somebody who's had great success, and as we have, just like Vicki
Yeah.
did with you, Darlene, and it's pretty common that people go, I can't think of any negative people, that they really has that choosy, whether it's being choosy, whether it's turning people around, um, there is a force field just to people that pulls in that positivity.
Yeah.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah. And
yeah.
you
Yeah.
just ooze it, Darlene,
Mhm.
even through the technology. I
That's
can't
true.
imagine what it's like for teachers and, the younger ones that are around you in person because
Mhm.
there's an infectious, kind of positivity about, d discover the
Right.
world,
Mhm.
read, be inspired.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think
Live your
always
dreams.
keep that 12-year-old inside you,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always there.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Oh
Oh,
my
I love
gosh.
that. Keep the 12-year-old inside us. That's awesome. So what's next on your dreamscape?
Well, and it's just about always book oriented now.
Yeah.
I am working on Amanda in Ireland,
Mm.
The Body in the Bog.
Ooh,
Ooh.
ooh. You did say body in the bog.
Yes, The
Yeah.
Body
Ooh.
in the Bog.
Okay.
So, and I'm about two-thirds finished the first draft.
Mhm.
In fact, I just polished up chapter 14 today, and there's usually about 20 chapters in each book. So, yeah, and I'm having fun writing that one. And I went to Ireland about it'll be 3 years in June that I went to Ireland. Yes.
Mhm.
See, there's
Mhm.
an example right there. I've always wanted to go to Ireland. And we have neighbors that have a holiday home really close to us. And we were having coffee with them. And they were telling me a few stories about Ireland. And they turned to me and they said, "You should come to Ireland. That'd be a
Mm-hmm.
great setting for one of your
Yeah.
books." And I said, "Oh, I've always wanted to go to Ireland. Don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
can swing it." But, and they said, "Come, please come. You
Mm.
can stay with us. We can drive you around. There's lots of interesting sites right near us, including a bog.
Yeah.
And there's a train that goes into Dublin every day. It's like about a 40-minute ride. And come on, we'd love to have you." So then I got to go to Ireland,
Yeah.
and now I'm writing a book about it. Yeah. Mhm.
Gosh. I love that
Just
because
say
it's
yes.
an
Yes.
unfolding, right? And
Mhm.
it's, I'm sure you probably had intentions that you wanted to set a story in
Yes.
Ireland, but the
I
unfolding
always
of
did.
it and then, being invited from, natives, right, to
Mhm.
come, you
Yeah,
get a whole
exactly.
different experience than if you were a tourist doing the tourist experience.
Oh,
It'll
a much
enrich in
different
your
experience.
writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
do you take
Mhm.
notes then while you're there,
Oh,
or do you
I
just let it?
do. I take tons of pictures and I take lots of notes. Yeah.
Mhm.
I do a
Yes.
journal, but I also do other notes as well. Yes,
Mhm.
and I refer back to them when I'm writing the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you have like built-in consultants then too, right? In case you
Oh,
got
yes.
anything wrong, you go, now wait a minute, right?
Oh, yes. No,
Am I
I've
saying this?
contacted them a couple of times and said, and the speech too. Would you say this?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Would you
Yeah.
Mhm.
say that? Is
Yes.
Right?
that the way you would say it? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Which I think I said this before
Mhm.
we started recording, but it was one of the things that really hopped out at me about, Amanda in Scotland, just the care that you took for the characters that were, in place,
Yeah.
you immediately knew who was native and who wasn't. It was just a subtlety about the dialogue that wasn't at all overdone. It was beautiful and pleasant and
I always like to tuck that in, and I have some very good Scottish friends actually, so I was able to
yeah,
confer with them and make sure I
yeah,
got that right. Yes.
yeah. And
Hmm.
I learned a few new words, which is always good,
Hey,
right?
it's
Yeah.
always good. I went to a school to do a reading, and afterwards, one little girl came up to me and she said, "I like that you use some big words in your books because I underline them, and after I go and look them up."
Oh,
Oh,
I
sweet.
know because I'm thinking I don't want to make them too difficult for them to
yeah,
read. They'll
yeah,
scare them off, but you do
right.
want to include a few because that's how they build their vocabulary, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And I was so sweet that she told me that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, right, because you
Oh.
want it to be a little bit of a reach, just stretch just a little.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
exactly.
That I gotta say, we
Oh,
just my daughter and I just read a young adult book, and there were a lot of pies in it, and so she's like, "Let's make pie," and it's so that age is so fun. I mean, she's 9, so she's
I
like,
know.
that age
Yes.
is so fun for
yeah.
picking up,
Yeah.
an idea, and they're just ready to run with it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Sweet.
gosh. This was a delight.
A
Oh my
delight.
goodness.
This
Mm-hmm.
was fun. It really, really was.
Really
Thank you
was.
so much for inviting me. I love your podcasts, and
Oh,
just being
oh.
on it is just an honor.
Thank you so
Our
much.
pleasure.
We love meeting you.
We did.
Likewise.
Till next time.